Hey everyone, I want to talk about gaslighting. It's been a while since I've talked about it. One of my earliest videos from the NARC playbook playlist that's on my channel um, talks about gaslighting, and I've talked about it from time to time. Uh, I had a phone conversation with a good friend of mine yesterday about gaslighting, and the conversation went about an hour and a half, and so there's a lot of takeaways from it, but I just want to put this video out there because I think it'll help people. What is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a form of lying and deception that is particularly difficult to detect, and it goes above and beyond what I would say standard lying, standard deception, because gaslighting is deceiving someone by also making them believe they're wrong and by making them feel like they misunderstood, and changes their understanding of previous events, makes them call reality into question. It's also known as crazy making. The term gaslighting comes from some literary work where there was a couple, and I think it was the husband would change the temperature of the house and make the wife believe that the temperature was changing, that it was hot or cold, and he would say, it's not hot, it's not cold. Something along those lines, right? Where somebody is manipulating the environment, and when somebody notices, makes that person feel like they're going crazy. So a good example of this is changing versions of the past, where you go and you're talking about, the example I gave in the first video was, let's say you're a guy, you go and you tell a story about how Jane at work is flirting with you in the break room, and yada, 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 yada. And then later on, when it comes up and says, oh, well, you said Jane was flirting with you in the break room. And it's like, no, I didn't say Jane. I said Jane was flirting with Frank, not me, but you missed that detail, I guess, right? So it's when you confront somebody and then they turn around and confront you as if you've misunderstood something in a way that seems valid, right? That's gaslighting. Now, the reason why it's so difficult to detect is because by default, our memories aren't all that great. I mean, can you remember what you did last Tuesday? What about Tuesday a week ago, right? What about 3 days ago? What did you have? What did you eat for lunch 4 days ago? And it's because most of the time as adults, we just don't hold on to all the information of the past, unless it is associated with a specific emotion, right? And that's where gaslighting can get particularly frustrating, evil, however you want to frame it. Because if something's happened in the past that got you emotional, then you've held on to those feelings for quite a while, and that has been cemented in your brain. And so then to be presented as if that you've gone through all those feelings and held on to those feelings for an incorrect reason or a misunderstanding or anything like that, that in turn causes additional emotions, and then that gets stamped in your memory with a whole different emotional profile. And so you start getting this whole series of events throughout your past with various changing negative emotions associated with it. So I hope that's making sense, right? So you start creating this string of negative emotion events in somebody's head, and it builds up over time. And so it preys off of the fact that our memories are bad to begin with. And even the legal system recognizes that, because eyewitness testimony is seen as the least reliable kind of evidence, right? There's hearsay and then there's eyewitness testimony, right? It's not great. So we know these things about our memories, and by default, especially if you're the kind of person who's a serial apologizer. You practically apologize for existing. Like, you just can't do anything right. I'm sorry. I'm just a fuck up, right? If you're the type of person that just overly apologizes and just assumes that you've done something wrong, gaslighting is something you should know about, right? Because chances are, if you're that type of person, it's because you've been gaslighted for most of your life, especially during your formative years. And you've learned that when you gaslight children, oh man, that is absolutely horrible for children, because then they grow up into adults believing that they just don't remember anything correctly. And they've grown up in an environment where they have to apologize for their recollection of events all the time. And they grow into adults who believe that they're just never right. And then when they come into the presence of someone who's high in psychopathy or a sociopath or any manipulative kind of person, well, they get used, right? So if that's you, like, think of the car in your driveway, right? The car just sits there. The car doesn't do anything or go anywhere unless there's somebody driving it. All right, so this is how manipulation works, right? So a car doesn't go anywhere unless someone is driving it, and then the car only goes where the driver wants to go, right? So unless there's a driver telling the car where to go, it's not going to go anywhere. And every car has some mechanical problems. Like, your car probably has a half a dozen things that need to go to the shop, right? Shit always needs to get fixed on a car, right? Well, every time you drive to work or you drive somewhere, you drive to the store, you drive by automotive shops, right? You drive right past the places where the car needs to go, but it doesn't go because somebody else is making the decisions, right? Now, from the standpoint of the car, right? Imagine that's you as the car, right? When you're being manipulated, controlled, driven by someone, you're never going to go to the places you need to go. You're going to always go to places the driver needs to go. And I was really bad about this for a long time. You know, when you have somebody telling you what you need to do, that is really, really bad. Really bad, right? It's one thing for somebody just telling you what to do, right? That in itself is a red flag for you and also maybe them, right? But if you have people always telling you what to do, but especially if you have people telling you the things you need to do, like for you, right? Really, really, really focus on that. That's not good. And it is very, very not good when you need to have somebody telling you the things you need to do. Bad sign, right? So, how do you combat gaslighting, right? So you've recognized that there's somebody gaslighting you. What do? Well, the ultimate solution is change your life, change the facts about your life so that person's no longer in your life. Unfortunately, that's easier said than done, right? Be great if we could just suddenly up and change jobs or change relationships or change families or change living arrangements, right? But you can't do that. So what do? Well, it's a mistake to call them out. I'm just going to put that out there. Because most of the time, people that gaslight do it because they're going to also love conflict, right? And so most of the time, the gaslighting is not just about the joy of gaslighting or seeing if they can get away with it. They're trying to get emotional reactions out of you and out of others, right? So they get their jollies that way. Most of the time, when you try to call them out on their bullshit or pin them down, they're going to thrive on it, and it's just going to further encourage them. Because especially if they're a conflict seeker, it's never about what you're talking about. It's never about the facts. It's not about the conversation. It's not even about being wrong. They're plenty content to be wrong. They don't care because what they want is a conflict. They don't want to be right. They don't care about that. I know, right? Yeah, think about that. They do not care about being right. They don't care about being wrong. They just want the fight. And it's secondary. Hush. They're content to be wrong. Yeah, I'll be wrong all the time because I get to fight, right? So you have to realize that, and that it's not about being wrong or right. And if you're an objective kind of person, that is especially frustrating, right? Because why the hell am I even arguing or fighting with somebody who's wrong and doesn't care about being wrong? Exactly is what you're doing, and that's why you feel like you're going crazy, because that's some crazy shit, right? So you have to understand that if you're going to combat this. So how do you combat it? Well, one way is you answer their questions, or you respond to their questions with more questions, right? Don't give answers, just give questions, right? Like a good example, the example he gave is, my friend gave is, I got this coworker and he comes up and he's like, is everything okay? Yeah, why? You're just acting really different today. Okay, what do you mean? Well, you're being passive aggressive, you're acting like you're avoiding me, you're being snippy, right? And he's like, well, no, not really, I don't think so. It's like, well, you definitely are, right? So what do you do about something like that? It's like, well, you just hit another question back. Like, okay, the gaslighter comes up and says, hey, why are you acting so different today? Am I acting different? Well, yeah, you're acting different. You're being passive aggressive. Am I? Right? What you want to do is, it's going to go in circles when you're dealing with a gaslighter, because that's how they create the frustration. That's how they get the conflict, because most people don't like to go in circles. Most of us don't. Probably all of us don't. Unless you're trying to upset someone. When you're trying to upset someone, you're content to go in circles because you know it's going to work. Sooner or later, this person's going to lose their shit, right? It's like, are you fucking with me? Yes. No, I'm not fucking with you. Yes, I am. Right? So you want to go in circles, like that's got to be your plan. And don't get emotional about it. But it's like, all right, we got a circle runner. All right, let's run in circles then. And just run them in circles. They're not really going to know what to do with it. Because then your responses, your questions, you can ask to be like, well, why do you care? Like, if I'm acting different today, why is that important to you? Why do you care? Like, are you asking about my emotional health? What are you getting at? You ask the questions back, right? That's one thing you can do. That's really frustrating. The other thing you can do is just, as soon as they come around, like if it's a coworker, for example, you start the conversation with asking them to do something, right? Hey, since you're here, can you go get that thing, right? You can even send them on a mission for something that doesn't exist, right? Be like, hey, can you go to the storeroom over there and grab the broom? There's no broom, right? You send them off somewhere else, or every time they come around, you ask them for help, or you tell them what to do. Like, hey, have you closed the register? Hey, did you clean the counters? Hey, since you're here, did you clean the counters? Something along those lines. So you nip it in the bud, right? So and they're gonna be like, man, every time I come around, you always need help with something. They're like, yeah, every time you come around, I'm gonna ask you for help. Right? So those are just a few things you can do. Another good way of handling these people, there's a video that most everybody has seen clips of this by now at some point. It's the interview of Kathy Newman and Jordan Peterson about the gender pay gap. If you haven't seen that video, you should watch it. There's two versions of it. One is 10 minutes, one is 30 minutes. You should watch the 30-minute one and pay close attention, because you can feel whatever way you want to feel about Jordan Peterson. Some people love him, some people hate him, some people think he's okay. Few people don't know who he is, whatever. But as a clinical psychologist, he's very, very good at redirecting the conversation. So the whole interview, she's trying to ensnare him into saying something and having it's gotcha journalism, right? She's trying to get a gotcha moment. And so she's notorious for saying, so what you're really saying is blah, 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 right? Oh, right, okay. So, and she's always trying to flip the narrative on him. And when somebody's trying to flip the narrative on you, what is the remedy for that? So this is very, very important. And I noticed this. I've watched this video dozens of times, and it finally hit me. And it says, before he ever gives a response to any questions, and he does respond, but what he does is before he ever responds, he readjusts the narrative and he corrects everything, right? So she says something. So you denied the pay gap. You denied that the pay gap exists, right? Which is what you said earlier. And he says, no, I didn't deny it exists. I said it doesn't exist because gender. The pay gap exists, but you have to say why it exists. You can't just say it exists. You have to say why it exists. I said it does not exist just because gender, because there's multiple variables that are responsible for it, right? So, and he says, and she keeps trying to put words in his mouth, and he says, yes, but that's not what I said. And so you said blah, blah, blah. That's not what I said. What I said was blank. Right? And you have to do that when you're dealing with a gaslighter. Even if you're not Jordan Peterson talking to Kathy Newman, it's the practice of resetting and fixing the conversation before you respond, right? Yeah, but that's not what I said. See, because I'm very, very careful with my words. Those are not words I use. I know my position. Right? So, and so that's one thing. The other thing is understanding that deliberate misinterpretation. In other words, purposefully not understanding what you've said or done or your reasons, and they do it on purpose, which is frustrating because then you get sucked into trying to fix their understanding, helping them understand you, but they're misunderstanding on purpose. And so once you identify that it's deliberate, then that's the end of it. No, you can say, no, I think you understand just fine. It's like, well, I don't understand. No, you do. No, I really don't. Yes, you do. And I've explained it the best I can. If you still don't understand it, I don't know, go to Google, but I can't help you further. Wow, you're such an asshole. Hey, you know what? I'm not trying to be mean, but I've given you the best explanation I can give. If you still don't understand it, I don't know. Maybe there's someone else out there that can help you, right? But that's it for me. So when they're deliberately misinterpreting you, it's not your job to correct them. And I'll leave you with this. When you're dealing with people like borderlines, narcissists, cluster B people in general, they're usually seeking conflict or they're seeking ego validation from you. They're trying to prove themselves superior. If they can't, then they're going to play victim, right? You've got to get to a place emotionally where you are okay with someone else being wrong about you. You need to be okay with someone else being wrong about you or about being wrong in general, right? Because it's not up to you. Especially if they're doing it on purpose, you're never going to make them right about you, because it's not the point. They don't care about being wrong. They just want the conflict and they just want to take the piss out of your day. And you're going to have to be okay with that, because you're going to have to learn to have faith in other people's ability to cut through the bullshit. And sooner or later, other people will come to find out that they're full of shit. And then they'll understand that they were full of shit about everything they said about you. Time is a factor. You just got to be patient. So I'll leave you all with that. Do please like, comment, or share, and I'll see y'all on the next video.